All right, everybody. It's another episode of Autosave. Hit back here with Rabbit XP, and there's been a lot going on in the gaming world over the past week or so. Since the last time we talked, and a lot of it is kind of related. So let's get right into it. So it looks like Microsoft has recently had another price hike. This article has been reported on multiple news sites. I think I first saw it on X, but it was reported on Polygon and Forbes. In the Forbes article I'll have up, this is the third price hike that it has since 2025, and I know they've been having like a lot of ruts. What I mean by ruts is like, games haven't been selling for them. They didn't know what kind of business model they wanted to be. Were they moving towards publisher? Are they going to stay in the console market? And now with Asha Sharma coming in, taking over, there's been so many layoffs, so many closures of different studios. Like Sony, I know they recently announced that they're closing Bungie because it wasn't making them no money. We'll get into that later. But yeah, Xbox has increased the price. Microsoft has increased the price of the Xbox yet again. And honestly, like I said before in a previous video, this is not a surprise because if you take into consideration the increase in RAM prices, this was something that was coming. Like, this is not something that's hidden, something that we didn't know about. RAM increased prices have been affecting everything in the electronic space, from computer hardware parts to physical consoles to just everything. It's been a mess. I want to say, since the pandemic, when they started increasing prices, or even before that with Bitcoin on graphics cards. But it's been tough for gamers, and it's only going to get tougher. On top of that, Xbox has also discontinued their 2 terabyte Xbox Series X model, which was the real expensive one, and I bet you that also ties into RAM. And it's all due to these giant AI data centers that every single business market or space is moving towards. And I think I said this before, but it's just the reality of things. It's the way that we're moving. It's the way that the direction every business, corporation, etc. is going. And I don't know if the bubble's gonna pop or if it's gonna slow down, but you kind of got to get with the program nowadays. You got to get on top of this AI stuff. But speaking of price hikes and things with like dealing with the console space and games, PlayStation recently came out and said in an article that I read over in an article from Insider Gamer that you'll see on the screen in a bit, is that they want more live service games. Now, PlayStation, according to the article, believes that live service games will attract users on a global scale, which is weird to me because they just refuse to be disheartened by setbacks such as Concord, right? But their plan is to first revitalize the market with first and third party games. Before I had mentioned, I think in a previous episode, if you watch that, sorry, my ear's kind of itchy. Somebody's talking about me. They said that they wanted to go back into focusing on their first parties, right? What brought them to the dance floor anyway, when they were leading the console market. And their goal with the live service is looking at ways to enhance games from medium and long term, right? And I don't even think they understand how they got themselves into the rut that they're in, right? Because the thing that got them they were leading the console space in PlayStation 4, right? PlayStation 4 blew the Xbox One out the water, especially with a lot of the balls that were dropped by the Microsoft and Xbox during that time. But they did that with their first party games, and they were getting some kind of good press, right? Outside of all the layoffs with Bungie and Destiny, they were getting good press regarding them saying that they want to focus on their first parties. It sucked that they were going to be exclusive, but they were going to focus on those games and really try to earn the trust of their gamers back. But it looks like they're only doing that because if you read the Insider Games article, and they say that they're looking at ways to enhance games for medium and long term, that's them looking for a source of revenue and perpetuity, which was something that I also talked about before. But honestly, I'm not even sure now is the time for them to even be talking about live service games, right? Especially if you take into account the economic situation that everybody is in, right? Especially gamers, right? Gaming has become more of a luxury hobby now because of how expensive things have gotten. Like if you weren't ready in the game space, like for example the PC gaming space, etc., if you weren't already in that space, it's so much hard. The barrier to entry to get into that space is triple as hard now, right? You know, I think that they need to put a pause on all this live service stuff. Not everything is going to be a Fortnite. Not everything is going to be a PUBG. Not everything is going to be, Marvel Rivals, Overwatch. Not everything is going to bring in that kind of longevity, right? And I think they need to, especially in this time, say what are our strengths as a company, Sony, right? Our strengths for making these really movie-like experiences with these single-player games. That's where they need to put their focus back into. That live service stuff, it's a hit or miss. It doesn't always work. And I think saying that, oh, you're going to revitalize the market with first and third party games, and then previously stating that you guys were going to earn the trust of the gamers back by putting your focus into first parties, what brought you to the dance floor, then making a statement like this that you're only saying that so that, I mean, not saying that, you're only moving in that direction so that you can create this live service that will try and bring in revenue for the long term. It's like, dude, you earn the trust and then you break it, right? On top of that, they also have price hikes recently, right? Not as recent as the Microsoft one, but they also have price hikes. So it's like, it's almost like these corporations have no consideration for the person. They only have consideration for their own pockets, which as a business, I guess you're supposed to do that, right? Because you're supposed to look at ways to bring in more revenue. But I think that, they need to take a step back and just really be focused and be really honed in on what they're good at, and that's making, like I said, making those movie like experiences like The Last of Us, God of War, the first Spider-Man game. Not a big fan of the second one, but yeah, like, come on, I don't know, it's just ridiculous, right? And then another thing is, it looks like they doubled down even on the single player stuff, right? I mean, they doubled down on the single player stuff even in this article, saying that they're going to be first party exclusives, but now they say live service games are going to go to both PC and console when they do start making them, which doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because I thought the whole statement from Sony was they just said they got no revenue from PC releases, right? So it's all very confusing, and I'm not sure if this is the step in the right direction, but who am I to say anything? I'm just a small little guy who's been loving video games all his life, and I don't know the direction that they're going in. I could just only hope that things become more affordable for us gamers, right? For the ones who really love this space and who love actual good games and not these cookie cutter, how can I make money as fast as possible, right? But speaking of economic issues and games being super duper expensive, right? It looks like the Steam machine is already being sold online by Scalpers. Surprise, guys, right? And this is an article that comes from IGN. So it looks like Steam machine has been spotted on like eBay and Amazon, etc., right? The reservations. So the 2 terabyte model, right, for example, was priced up. That was $1,500, as if that wasn't expensive enough. Got priced up by Scalpers to $2,100, with some even being $3,000, right? I know it's not a surprise. Everybody saw this coming, and I don't think there is a perfect answer to stop that. I guess the reservations, them being randomized, was kind of a way to tackle it. But how I look at it, it's like when players are abusing a mechanic in a game, right? Especially a fighting game or like any sort of competitive game, a shooter, etc., right? And the game developers patch it out. They put a patch to try and take care of that abusive system, that abusive mechanic, etc., right, that the game is using, right? But they just find another way, right? Gamers will find another way to either optimize or get back in on the same scenarios, right, to break the game, right? But it's not a one-for-one comparison, but I'm saying that it's extremely similar, right? But thing with Scalpers is that Scalpers are like parasites, right? And they just don't know how to go away. They will latch onto you. They will hug onto you and they just won't let go. And this is not a surprise. We all saw this coming. And honestly, as a PC gamer, if I wouldn't even spend $1,500, let alone $2,100 to $3,000 on the Steam machine, it is not powerful enough. It is not worth it enough. And I know that Valve probably would have made it cheaper if RAM prices were more affordable. So this whole AI data center stuff is, until they find another resource to power these AI data stuff, we're not gonna see much of a change. So I know it's a Debbie Downer for autosave, but this is the news that's come out. If I get any other news, I promise I'll try to report on it. Bigger for us gaming and pop culture folks, for all of my nerds out there. But yeah, love, peace, chicken grease, and I hope you guys enjoyed another episode of Autosave.
Like and subscribe!